But no, I wanted. We had wanted to just, we had applied for flyers by that. Ronnie. Actually wanting to do a study. Right. Not good at families to see what is what's the point at which you decide to send your kid to. What is the decision making process? And what is the process that you need as a family in order to people won't then of course study also skills.
Okay. No, it is America.
Right.
I like the
really is a strong one. They sound like so
what I'm asking is
always stop. Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
You have something on your shirt.
So before we start, we actually wanted to ask you if you could come forward and arrange yourselves in front. Just because it's after lunch and we felt like the discussion could be a little bit more dynamic if we were closer together. And I know after lunch people tend to fade a little bit. There's lots of laptops open. So if people don't mind just coming forward, Natalia's already started to come forward. Don't be shy.
Circle, Natalie, what you're asking?
Can I ask everyone to speak up too? Because when you're standing over on this side, you actually can't hear what's going on over there.
Okay,
So thanks.
great reminder.
Everyone?
Everyone who plans to attend the session needs to come forward.
You have to pay for your lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's supposed to come. I think that's what we asked. Not change?
Yes, how are you? I think a long time ago, yeah. And when some lost yeah.
Someone lost.
I did want to welcome the live streaming guests and just let the people in the room know that we are being recorded. And any side conversations that you have will end up on tape. So I just wanted to let you know, full disclosure. Please, Natalie, go ahead.
Tighter circle.
Oh, can you go in a tighter circle?
Or like be more oblong on that side.
Be more.
Is everybody in? Who's going to be in?
Come on in here.
I know. Just
Magic chair.
You have more room on to the left than on to the right.
Patrick, are you speaking in? Thanks for my
coming in.
What's the doing? But okay.
It's not nice to be left out.
Stick together.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start.
See, some people need, here's a chair right here, if anybody's out of the circle.
I think we maybe lost a few.
You want to?
Yeah. That's even better though, since we're a smaller group. Okay, so we'll start. Good afternoon. I'm Natalie Folt. For those of you who don't know me from Save the Children Canada, I'm one of the co-chairs of the ASST working group. I'm also currently in the role of Research and Learning Advisor for the Youth in Action Project, which we heard a lot about today. This afternoon session on youth participation in humanitarian context is going to be co-facilitated with my colleagues here, Natalia Tapies, who is the Senior Advisor for Youth for the Middle East and Eurasia region. She's based in Amman. And Irene Soto Diaz, who is the Senior Youth Empowerment Advisor.
Yeah, and the gender.
And gender different hats. Many hats with Save the Children Netherlands, which is based in The Hague. Yes. Exactly. I recently overheard over lunch. So this session actually, it's going to be a little bit different because it's not an area where we have a lot of experience in. So this is more of a discussion session, more exploratory. We can call ourselves innovative that way. It's come about, actually, it was the marriage of two different topics that we thought would be interesting to be discussing at this meeting. One of them, of course, youth participation, child and youth participation. It's core to our work at Save the Children. We have economic voice and participation as one of the building blocks in our approaches. We have a lot of experiences coming from different members in this area, so we want to share. But at the same time, within our working group, and this is also coming from voices in different regions, there is an increasing need to have more ASST type programming for humanitarian contexts. We have more situations where there are crises, where they're becoming prolonged, where we have young people that are longer times in situations of uncertainty, where they are out of school, they may have never been in school, and they also might not have access to be able to have a livelihood. They're not able to work. It could be because they're not nationals of the country or because of minimum age requirements. So this is something that within our working group we want to start focusing on now. So this session is kind of bringing those two elements together, and we're going to see how it goes because it's been a bit of a struggle to put it together. So very quickly, after this brief introduction, we're going to be doing a reflection on what barriers and opportunities there would be for youth participation in humanitarian contexts. Natalia is going to share some ongoing research that's happening right now with Syrian adolescent refugees in Lebanon and in Egypt, a participatory action research project, and also share what some of the young people are saying that recently participated in the RAC meeting in Amman not too long ago. And then Irene is going to share a meaningful participation of adolescent girls tool, which recently came out, I think just last year, from the Coalition of Adolescent Girls. And we wanted to just add another layer of complexity in too, as within our work we are striving to be at minimum gender sensitive. So with having this discussion, we also need to be thinking of engagement of girls and other marginalized or more vulnerable groups, and this is also a linkage to the session that will be following this. So very quickly, and I know we are all, well, there's the answer. Okay, well, we're running out of time for that anyways, as I got my 2-minute mark, but I think we are all quite aware, as Save the Children staff, what child and youth participation is. So it's when children and youth have the opportunity to express a view, to influence decision making and achieve change. It's when they are informed and willing to be involved in decision-making processes, and this is according to, of course, different ages and abilities, and this is enshrined in the UN CRC, the 12th comment on children having the right to be heard. So however, within ASST, because this is part of the child poverty thematic area, we focus not so broadly on participation, but on really fostering young people's engagement and advocacy for decent livelihoods. So the focus on the agency component of young people being able to access, but also create opportunities within their communities, within their markets. So we have different examples of this type of programming. From our projects, one of the famous ones that we always like to talk about is within the EYE program in Bangladesh, where young kids advocated to have bank accounts for minors set up. This was done by a child-led movement, where previously it was only over 18 years old that they were allowed, or they would have to have the consent of the guardian. And within the same movement, they also advocated for the rights of domestic workers. So now they have more access to school, as well as recreational time and better working conditions. We heard a lot about Youth in Action this morning and how youth are really the catalysts within creating these opportunities or accessing opportunities within their communities. So this is what we refer to when we talk specifically about economic voice and participation. And now applying that a little bit to the humanitarian context. This is a little bit more tricky in an area that we are trying to now start to discuss. I mentioned before the situation of what young people are facing, but the need for them to have a voice in the situations that they're in, but as well as opportunities for livelihoods within this context. So Natalia now is going to lead us through a reflection to start thinking about this.
Okay. So we're going to do an exercise that's called the River of Life. Maybe some of you already know it. So we're going to break in, I think, 4 groups, right? Because it's a smaller, yeah. So we start, we just number ourselves 1, 2, 3, 4, please. 1,
2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1,
2, 3.
4, 1,
2,
3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I'll split around. So we can kind of go into each table. You take a flip chart, and what this exercise is about is you just draw a river. So it has a beginning and it has an end. The end is participation of adolescents and young people. We want to look at, I think, participation in broad sense. Of course, we're looking at economic participation, but we're also looking at social participation, cultural participation, etc. But let's have a focus on economic. And you just, if you're a young person who's at the beginning of that river, and you kind of flow, what helps you kind of continue your journey? What are some of the barriers that kind of stop you or make you stall in that journey in a humanitarian setting? This is just to say we're actually using that exercise with some young adolescents as well for other purposes. So that's the exercise.
Can I ask you a question?
We have 12 minutes. Yes.
When you do it with kids or even here, how would you define participation? What do you tell them?
You did have a slide about that, actually.
It was one of it.
Because we're looking at the different types of participation. I don't think that helps. I'm happy to. Okay, so the way we just recently actually was just mentioned that at the RAC meeting in Amman, so we were talking about what participation with young people themselves, yeah. So we looked at it in basically 2 ways, almost 3 ways, but like say 2 main ways. One is the participation of young people in our programs. So what is the say they have about the programs, participation of young people in their own kind of lives and within the household, the decisions that they can make about their own future. And also, and I guess we're going to focus less so on this one here, participation from people in our organization. What's the voice of children and young people in our organization actually in a more systematic way? Those were the three ways that we looked at.
So you're talking about voice, agency, decision-making power.
And supporting systems as well from their families and communities, legal situation. Okay, can we go? Do we have 12 minutes to do the exercise? It's very short, and then we'll just have a bit of a discussion about reflection about what's coming up. Is that clear?
Okay.
Where do we?
Where are the other fours?
Please right here in this corner. Oh no, Sylvia again. Hello, Patrick. Let me get
Ladies, are you four? Yeah, 4.
I don't know how to sleep. Great. I will go back. I'm at 3.
Yeah, so we're going to draw a river.
Okay, so you're
Positions are going to end up with barriers that keep kids from flowing down the river.
Yeah, very
how the flow happens and what keeps it flowing down the river. And the participation.
My river starts in a mountain.
In the position paper, there is a definition, actually it's in here on page 8.
While you do that, can I just go back to the question about how do we define the voice? And spend some time with it.
I think humanitarians and whole idea to reflect about what's different.
So that means that I am here.
Brown River. And Brown River.
The first thing that comes to my mind when I think humanitarian settings is like,
But also
she's humanitarian and
with their employers or with relevant.
so that's just one slicing of the pie.
Or again, ultimate outcome.
So we need one for
Having a voice and being able to act on it. But again, so it's, we talk about it broadly, so engagement in programming, but also engagement in their career.
Come on,
So, might.
So you could have a form of why there.
Humanitarian settings, right? So
coming in.
Yeah, refugees, participation of refugees, I think it's a separate issue.
things are not operating
the two main
as effectively as.
All right,
maybe
so
we
we've
put
got
refugees there and then right here.
I've drawn two barriers.
Okay, so
Is that a tree?
That's a tree that fell over into the
Vicious circle.
yeah, no,
That
it's
too
that
could
they're
be the lack of institutional
Some rocks here.
How disaster affected or something. I don't know. Yeah, like
we need to.
Yeah, I mean, so, being there in their own setting. So, I'll put some rocks, that will signify areas belong to the flow, Syria, what kind of institutions are operating. But then the other case is, if they're displaced, they may not know, or may not have access to them because of their status.
So for the sake of this exercise, should we take down one of those?
What are the
And I'm not sure what extent
So,
My guess
just
would be
think,
brainstorm potential.
for lack of a better.
yeah.
you want to live there, and just want to be able to better my own life.
It seems to me that children and adolescents in this context have two primary needs. The first is education, because they're missing out on
Economic opportunities.
schooling. The second is
She's a coming in.
So here we have
they may
What's the end result?
The end is.
I agree with you that there is
Maybe we could phrase it as disruption of something. So like the disruption of all the usual ways they might participate. That phrase it in a way that
So then basically
is more direct.
The other thing you mentioned,
humanitarian.
So disruption.
Like disruption of, I don't know exactly what forums.
Just really looking
Yeah,
at
like,
But I think a lot of
be postponed due to war.
How about disruption of routines? How but that only
It's not, yes, or there's
barrier to
laws.
participation.
5 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know. You're from the river, right? I'm just making that assumption that they would normally be participating, but in a humanitarian movement they're not.
So that might be that if you have ongoing program work, or if you have a school system that's functioning with the way things are.
Okay, so we.
Sorry, like that
That
tells me Ethiopia options. One is a trouble, they don't have houses, they want to maybe choose them to migrate to somewhere else. So the routine.
There are a lot or no?
The routes that
Okay.
no more.
When you say
But there's participation versus we have a
wherever now the last
Okay, participation is very basic. Just take their life, everyday life. Right, but for a lot of people, everyday life doesn't
Yeah, I think in this case.
Let's get this on the board, and then we'll get all those other factors too. But like, we have a scenario here where there is a situation that's been disrupted. Now let's put some other barriers on it. I feel like we're wordsmithing this one to capture everything.
I don't think it's wordsmithing though, because I think the humanitarian context, the way that we're talking about it is like, so okay, or there's a humanitarian.
I think displacement,
situation creates existing situations already probably not that great. We can move on to another option.
Really valid point. That's one of the things that we just, I've been working for a while now trying to figure out what does health look like in the country and how do we set programs that respond to that. And we really struggle because at least in any condition that you're not in like the immediate following of an acute disaster, fairly right? Because so much of it is gender-based violence anyway. And so aside from those like first 30 days after a disaster, then we also the SHM program but everything else. And it'll be tacked together to respond to what right that is not really different.
Frankly, a lot of humanitarian programming is not.
Right.
Longer-term thinking development work where it shouldn't be very often is because of funding constraints, but the situation is not that things were all well.
Yeah, I think that's violence going the way we wanted it to in our minds, and then a disaster happened. That's rarely the case. Cases like that, the government has organized enough to manage it. For example, Japan, Syria.
Yeah, I know. It's the same. I feel like
even though
because it's very different.
Already pretty burning for the curriculum.
But I assume
Then there's the humanitarian situation on top of that.
Only adolescents, but
Go back to the pre-humanitarian, something much bigger than
working on your future career, it seems like much.
Well, maybe they
Pre-existing social norms. An obstacle, whether I'm not saying that defines you. I'm not putting a label, but I'm saying I'm just throwing that out there.
So they think that's one of the
So lack of ownership, like the book instead of like ownership. There might be like then we can actually say
I mean, I think that.
a dance. So opportunity. Young people have, let's say that can be only can be dance.
Yeah, that's what I do. Like local, it's a double-edged awareness.
This
Folks,
is kind of social.
you need to focus on basic.
And then make the student, even when we provide them opportunity, they
Or the relationship, for example, the
contribute to videos.
Practitioners are much more
If they don't have
great, much greater for their
there's all of their participation there.
I think
or
generally
their opportunity.
It's not a real participation.
Yes, so a lot of this is external, and a lot of it gets internalized. So there's like rules and such, but then there's their inability to, not inability, but just kind of burned caution in a way, silencing their own fears. So it's maybe almost as a result of all
Yeah, maybe it's sort of.
But they often they flee, and often the reason they flee or they're sent out is because it's the engagement norm. It's because it's being recruited. But once they, I think this is once they flee, then that's why they're often sent. But that risk is lessened once they're gone. Girls kind of, and there's certainly a risk for boys. The girls have so much more of an issue, and I've seen a lot of. I guess we don't think of it as more stakeholder aware because of the migration problem to Latin America. Like it's just a huge. Some people, and girls. So that's what I'm saying. So it's a huge thing. This is what we're
And whether we provide them girls, I mean, this is an area where distinction between Try would be
And yes, and then later on,
that our activity will have
their kind of options, I think.
most of the
You know,
time
there's
it's like
since girls
the
are
children
more-
come.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I'm just kind of, I know you're
What are some of the
Positive reinforcement. I don't know how to say the level of participation is really limited, and sometimes like
barriers.
So, and whether we have enough confidence levels, and we take all of their
They can't participate.
voices. Oh, is that okay? I have a conversation with the children, and that enough.
They said yes.
Yes, they said yes, and we can take in the participation in that.
Yeah, it's still a tough. It's gonna always be
How much you take into consideration and to really take into action.
Yeah, but it's always
Even for us, we also have to
I was gonna put a card.
Broken down hard.
Persuasive.
a lot of
okay.
it's in the river. It was not even maybe a word.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
So what I'm doing is that I'm using
If you think it is, then it's an enabler, yes.
even though it's not.
Mommy happened, they actually reviewed their livelihood choices, and they had some of the family planning get back into fishing, while the others
Where intergenerational,
other kinds of jobs that's
or just even, not even, but even your own cultural, have different, sections kind of. But I have noticed that populations, when I was creating the Macedonia, different donors, if they don't, different.
What about leadership?
This is way different.
Do they have more
Different countries, right?
Which is related to this idea.
Yes.
Or for example,
Right, and
and more the same as older child.
Do you think they do?
During
You
Well,
tell me which,
Issue of actual like
those
ego.
are the
Ego
could be.
Well, there's more than before. I'm not saying legal rights, that's the actual.
The way that we overcome trauma, whatever the crisis is, as well as just
Like for you,
Actually,
the protection front, trying to flip it to
your,
compliant.
you know,
Like
regress.
trauma,
Regression.
and then
Okay, that's a good
and then just sort of like this exposure to.
We need to wrap up in 1 minute.
your personal extended network.
Especially on the humanitarian context, you
Yeah.
know, I think
We need to wrap up in 1 minute.
Or institutions where they could be vulnerable, which also could be a
Yeah, the same time that you.
young people.
and
Usually
in ways that probably a lot of times
They are much more savvy.
1 more minute.
Less of a barrier, because they are able to essentially connect better than their parents.
And what about
Technology more savvy, and they have access to
might have been willing to take
for communication.
But also, I'm trying to understand what you're learning.
I'm just saying that
Again, they can be relevant.
young people are usually not
In a way
We
that.
have language, right?
Yes.
very strong.
Lots of networks, but also, but also gaining.
Yeah, I
know.
yeah, I leadership voices, and I think
You know, having that.
Yes.
Online.
Yeah.
that's another one. Like the access to social media,
It's really exploiting
communication. The immense other things outside of
more of that, and race how we're, yeah, exploiting. Yeah.
any other challenge.
Yeah. Can we please come back?
We need to
Come back. Please come back. We just have, gonna have a discussion.
That's a bridge. You guys are already here, so
Effective participation at the end.
Can we come back here?
For an exercise. No, don't worry.
We do.
We work for safety.
But are you deployed?
I just
We did a response back.
Yeah. She went out initially to get some
We got it.
Who has it? Who has the right one?
global task force. Task force. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah. I'm participatory.
Okay, as long as you're standing there, can you smile for me? Okay, you guys, smile. Okay, smile.
Okay, smile. So we wanted just to take a few minutes to. We're not going to present back unless, well, you're very proud of your drawings. But just to kind of a bit of a reflection about some of the, let's think about first the opportunities that came up. There are a lot more to come up with and challenges. So maybe just, not per group, just let's have a discussion of what was the discussion around opportunities in humanitarian settings.
Well, one thing I noticed is that they had to be created. Like all of the barriers were just things that happened in the context naturally, and all the opportunities for like structures, mechanisms, programs, whatever, that had to be created. They really didn't occur naturally.
Although we were thinking about the Syrians migrating to Germany, and where their tech savvy, their language skills, they were better able to adapt than the parents who were with them. So in a way, that a certain entrepreneurialism was emerging.
They have assets. They have certain assets that they bring to the table, right? Yeah.
Once they reach Germany, though, have they not escaped the humanitarian crisis of the refugee camp? Probably not, to me.
Well, but that's where they are, and that's where we need to ensure their participation. And I think the point was just to say that they're not, only victims. They actually show like a huge amount of resilience. And the children sometimes, I think, more so than the parents, or the parents really struggle.
More?
I think related to that, the issue is the technology. The young people, technology savvy, they can be able to communicate and share information not through the technology. So that's we saw that as an opportunity.
Yeah, we were discussing in our group that actually they have way more skills on communication, social media. Like we were trying to also to compare with the humanitarian setting, for example, in the 90s. Let's say the Yugoslavian war or something like that, compared to today, because that's also important. Because it's true that when we're discussing humanitarian or emergency context, we tend to be very negative, because that's how the context is. But it's true that it evolved a lot, and a lot of things improved, even though it always has a huge negative component out of it. But now they can raise more their voices, they can report more cases of violence, they have social media, Twitter, etc. They're really skilled on that communication and global awareness, which I think is very, very crucial for future cases. So that was one thing.
We talked similarly to what Tessa said about how the breakdown of existing social norms and institutions can be both a barrier and an opportunity, because often more traditional social norms don't encourage participation as much, youth and child participation, But with that breakdown and with an emergency, a crisis emerging, young people can have opportunities to take on more leadership roles, true, via technology, but often in places where technology is not as available as well.
Thinking along these lines about the opportunity and some of the barriers that then come up to achieving that realizing that opportunity, for me a major constraint in this is that in many places of the world, the logic behind youth development money is a social control, fear of violence, youth as threat logic, and they give it to nice people who are helping youth, and that's got to come up against each other at some point. And definitely youth participation when they arrive in Germany sparks the yeah, no, that's not what this is about. So that's some barrier that's something very hard for me to get around.
I remember the old Education for Youth Empowerment language was very much about political empowerment. This Education for Youth Empowerment pre-existed the ASST work paper, so it's shifted, and the old papers were all about politically empowering youth, which in today's context doesn't fly as well, does it?
And I think, if I may add as well, I think that these, as organizations like Save the Children, we really need to think about what does it mean for us as well, right? We really want to encourage governments to give a voice to young people. Well, in the region where I come from, where I work in the Middle East, governments see young people as threats. Stop. Yeah. And I just wanted maybe to mention at the last week at the meeting, young people were really saying, let us decide and support us so that we can make our own decisions. We know better what we need, what we want, but then we have a lot of challenges as well as organizations, and going back to that in terms of donors and donor requirements and this whole anti-radicalization agenda. How do we have a narrative and we have agreement about what's a narrative as an organization around this, and it is extremely challenging, but we can't just ignore that that's what young people want. They want to have that space for them and to be able to make those decisions, but that has risks as well. So and it says a big stop, so I'll stop here. Thank you. So I'm just going to share now this is a project that we came out, and it has linkages to the next session as well. So one of the challenges that we had seen starting in Egypt, but in the whole region really around the Syria crisis, was the young people, especially adolescents, and we knew little about them. We started in collaboration with the Women's Refugee Commission. We did a pilot of the I'm Here approach that actually we're going to talk about in the next session on the girls roster on adolescent girls. So thanks to the Syria Pool Fund, if you're familiar with that funding mechanism, we designed this participatory action research project with adolescents in Lebanon and in Egypt, in partnership with a research institution. And a lot of what we have been talking about has been coming up. So I just wanted to very quickly give, what is the context we're talking about. And this is key concerns from young people's perspective. We know Lebanon is hosting, after Turkey, a lot of refugees from Syria. And there is huge pressure in the country. And young people feel overwhelmingly helpless and and depressed. They have limited mobility in Lebanon. Unemployment, of course, is rampant for young people, being refugees or not. So serious issues also around personal well-being. In Egypt, this is in addition to all of this for adolescent girls. Many of the girls are actually staying at home. They have very little freedom, high levels of depression as well, and no opportunities to work or engage in social and community activities. So Okay, it's going very fast. So really the intent of the project was, let's use participatory action research to really find out what young people are going through, what is their perspectives, and what are identified solutions to some of the issues they're facing. And we left it there. There was no agenda. We have the most amazing, incredible, flexible funding for this. So we've managed to go back and forth, and that has been actually very helpful in the project. So we're working in Lebanon with 15 to 21-year-olds, boys and girls, and in Egypt they decided to work only with girls, adolescent girls, from 12 to 21. And we started partnering with the Sam Fares Institute. This is a policy institute of the American University in Beirut. It's probably one of the most reputable academic institutions in the region. We wanted to work with an academic institution to work with us on this. It started being 12 months. It's been extended to 16 months. And the areas, so in Egypt is in Greater Cairo, neighborhoods with high density of Syrian population, and in Lebanon, in Tripoli, in the north, with actually adolescents. Everyone in Lebanon is affected by the Syria conflict. So we've been actually working more in Tripoli with Lebanese, especially men, in one slum area in Tripoli, and in Bekaa is the area that's actually along the border with Syria, very close to the border. It's a very fluid area with lots of people coming in and out and having their livelihoods crossing over into Syria. Social tension is huge between the refugees and the host community. It's huge in both areas, particularly in Bekaa. In Egypt, a little bit less so, but in Lebanon, it's huge. So anyway, trying to put together what that came about. So we started, the key steps perhaps to talk about this was, we sat down with the teams and we did some planning. First consultations with youth in each country. We had the information we had already from the I'm Here pilot in Egypt, and then some work we had done with young people in Lebanon as well, so that informed it. Really, so the phases basically would be, or have been, an outreach phase, and that has been very important to really identify those young people, capacity strengthening, looking at the research tools and what tools the young people would like to use, the actual action research is starting here, and then having the youth-led initiatives. This is where we are now. So we've reached. Okay, the project has not been completed yet, and I should say that the project really wanted to work with the younger adolescent age range. We found a lot of challenges, and we found different ways and different journeys in each country to actually get to them, including, what technology, actually in Egypt. So maybe just to share as well. So basically, a big part of this was to really document the whole process, because this was very new, and participatory action research is something that has been widely used in non-humanitarian settings. There's very little evidence of how this methodology can be useful in humanitarian settings, and actually we do have another project currently in Jordan that is also using participatory action research, and the UN is piloting 2 or 3 participatory action research projects also in the region. So we really wanted to put a huge emphasis on documenting it and saying, well, does it work as a methodology? And of course, documenting what the findings are from the project. In a lot of it, I should also say that we don't have expertise on participatory action research. So when we partnered with the American University in Beirut, they helped us with a methodology. But there was, for our teams to really get used to what participatory action research is, and where you put young people really at the center, it took a long time. So also the outreach. So, for example, just to give you examples, in Egypt, we wanted to work with this younger age group between 12, 13 to 16 years old, because this is the group that is the hardest for adolescent girls, and we couldn't. Our teams couldn't. We couldn't find them. We couldn't really. So the team decided to start working with older girls up to between 18 and 21 years old. And someone in that group was talking earlier, I can't remember, you were mentioning about how do you work with older youth to actually reach out to younger ones. So for example, the team in Egypt decided to do that, engage around 21 girls, mainly Syrian, going through very, very difficult personal circumstances, many of them, and they kind of became the mentors. They ended up being also what NUB calls research partners, right? You do research about yourself and your peers. So they, this core group was actually trained, and I'm just going to give you the example, for example, of Egypt. They were trained, and then the phase came, okay, so now we want to start bringing in the younger girls. So how do we do that? And again, as I said, we couldn't until the girls said, well, actually, let us, we'll do it. So what they did, they just put a message on Facebook, and then in 2 days, we had like 60 young girls coming to, being interested in joining the project. And, I know it sounds very, very simple, but they were having discussions. We were talking to our outreach teams, and it's let the girls, do it. One of the girls said, no worries, I'll put, and she did it actually without even asking, and she came back and said, I have all these young girls who are interested in participating. So, and it has been a journey for Lebanon, for example. We started with these young boys who come from an area where there's a lot of armed groups in the area, and there's a lot of fighting. And this is not related just, to Syria. Everything in Lebanon is related to Syria, but many other issues. Who could barely read or write. Actually, they were, they couldn't understand the basic concepts. And it's been a long journey with them. I'll share a little bit some of the learning so far on this. And the research tools. So the group, the young people were presented with different options they could choose from, being photo voice, be it interviewing, different research options by some Fares, and they selected the tools they wanted to use. They selected the topics they wanted to discuss and research on. And now they're in the phase of selecting the initiatives, and the analysis goes back and forth, meaning that after each session they do their own analysis. So we don't kind of go there, dive in, and say we do the analysis. This is the information we collect. It's actually the young people who do the actual interpretation of the data they're collecting. And these are some of the tools that were selected. So community mapping, exploration of the community, interviews, and photo voice. I don't know how much time left. And here I was initially putting youth making all decisions. I didn't want to say all decisions because that's not realistic. They made most decisions. We actually had to make some decisions. And one of the lessons that is going to come out is that our teams, our Save the Children teams, really struggled with this type of methodology. It was too flexible for them. They thought they needed to tell the young people what to do. They were like, we have a schedule, we need to finish. And we're like, if they just reach session 3, it doesn't matter. this is the beauty of this type of funding as well, to be able to really let it flow and be very organic. And so it has been a long journey, but now we start seeing big differences between the beginning and the end. For example, in Becca, some of the issues that we faced was that our teams put together into a room 15, 16, 17-year-olds together of Syrians and non-Syrians. And actually the way it was described to me was we were this close to physical violence. Right. So we, our teams again, and here I want to highlight this because this is to say that how challenging it is, where just put them all together and talk. But that doesn't work that way, right? And they had to really do a lot of, some far as the American University in Beirut helped us also with conflict sensitivity concept for our teams, but even very skilled facilitators really struggle to, how to make that work. So this a lot of those lessons learned as well. And I think that one of the the things we struggled with was to either we were, and this is this point here, either we were at the top of everything or we were totally hands off. And it's very hard to find that kind of middle ground where you just facilitate, but you let your people decide. So basically, suddenly our team decided not to show up to the sessions, and that was problematic as well. You see that they didn't come, and then they left the older youth by themselves, and that was also not the way to go. So challenges.
Can I ask a question, if I may?
Yes, please.
A lot of these adolescents, they come from cultures which don't necessarily provide youth with a lot of voice and agency. So it feels almost unfair to suddenly expect them to stand up and start participating. What needs to happen before this kind of workshop or activity can be conducted?
So the learning was, you need to do, in Egypt, for one reason, we had a very, very skilled manager who had done a lot of work with this age group before, and that made a huge difference. So she started very slowly, and we had the luxury of time as well. So we started very slowly. The girls were starting to meet, introducing each other, so doing a lot of group type of group dynamics work. You don't just sit them in a room and say, now you talk. That's not how it is, right? So and so we did a little bit what we call life skills and this kind of sessions with them for at least a couple of months actually, until the group felt kind of more comfortable with each other, and then they started kind of coming up with some of the ideas. So time and dedicating of time and skilled facilitators that don't rush it is essential. And this is where we struggle also in Lebanon, for example, where the level of pressure in Lebanon is a lot higher as well. So that was a reflection of the situation in the country, actually. This one I'm going to go very quickly through the slide, but I really wanted to say that the project is very ambitious in the sense that we're trying to capture all of this. So any change in the participants in terms of agency and relations, and actually we've used the river of life to try to track that change. Stop. Oh my goodness. Okay. To track that change in individual girls, because we didn't want to develop tools to assume that you're going to go through this change and then influence the girls or the boys in responding. So we said we want to leave it totally open. So we use actually the river of life and before and after and see whether there's any change in there. I mean, of course, the question was different in terms of how do you see yourself and what's your aspirations, and in that river. Any change in the communities, particularly perceptions towards adolescents. The issues, of course, this is the actual action research itself, and then is participatory action research a good methodology to actually have the voices of this age group kind of heard. Now, the learning got, I'm going to go very quickly through this. So, and this is up to today. We haven't done, as I said, the community projects yet, which we want to, of course, then look at what happens at the very, very end of the project. But as the learning so far in terms of their own adolescence it's very clear that it has promoted the critical thinking. The group dynamics have shifted like dramatically, particularly in the last 2 or 3 months of the project. They started feeling a lot more connected to their communities. Really, like the fact that they went out and interviewed or talked to people in the community made them realize, oh, maybe I can do something about this. Greater cohesion between the different groups, and again, this is over a period of 8 months of seeing each other on a regular basis. And really wanted to do something about, being very excited about the community projects and say, well, okay, so now what can I do to give back to my community? And this is, again, young people who feel very, very disconnected with their own communities. So a lot of learning in terms of process, as I mentioned, importance of having qualified staff and allowing enough time, flexibility, and continuity of staff has been also a challenging topic, but this could apply, I guess, to many projects. I just wanted, in terms of linking it then to reflection on participation. So some of the real lessons learned around this is time, investing in time, clearly, and kind of supporting young people to grow and learn and kind of gain the skills so that they can work together. Working around these restrictive environments as well, that's really important. For example, in Egypt, you cannot go out in the street and interview people. You can't. The police is going to, especially if you're a refugee girl, is going to take you to a detention center, no question. So, working around that and having the girls kind of come up with their own ideas about how they would do that, that has been one of the lessons. And making young people make all decisions if possible, all of them basically, and changing our own internal systems around that. We have been able to do that because of the funding and the our ability to actually take risks, as well as an organization stopped 3 times. Yeah, It's very hard to present this project actually because it has been so incredibly exciting. But we're having a learning event in November in either in Beirut or in Cairo, where we're going to bring some of the young people. Not all of them, unfortunately, because they can't travel between countries. But and we'll then use that to kind of also do advocacy work as well in both countries with parents.
Tanya?
Yes, please.
Interesting to hear this. Another quick reflection, though, is, and I think you're aware of this, that 8-9 years ago there was a ton of this kind of work going that Save the Children was doing. And I this may be inevitable with the transitions, to SDI, et cetera, but I just wonder how can we tap back into the former projects, the people that were involved, the partners we had. It wasn't so much with refugee groups, but there was a lot, and this was across the region.
Yes.
We had region-wide programs with positive youth development. Ford Foundation gave us an entire portfolio.
Yes.
I just think it would be, if it may be in your learning event, trying to bring in some of those people who participated, 10 years ago. A lot of lessons we're learning now were things we learned a few years back.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of that institutional memory has been lost. I've been chasing some of that information since I started in my position, and it has been very hard to get. It was before AMS time, so no, but it's but yeah, no, that's a very good point, and I actually now managed to kind of find a couple of people who are working for other organizations now, but
Was that snowball technique where you find one who finds somebody else?
Was there good research? I mean, was there anything good that came out?
Well, the one group that I'm really thinking, I think they still exist, Nasij.
Nasij,
that
yeah.
Organization still exists, doesn't it? And they probably have a lot of the connections.
Yeah.
Okay, I think unfortunately we have to wrap up, but if we have more questions, perhaps at the break, we'll discuss further with Natalia. Okay. Thank you.
For the exercise.
Okay.
For the group discussion at the end.
I'm gonna make it quick and exciting.
Sorry, when you speak, can you move out of that corner because there is no video?
It's hard to hear you in the corner.
And
okay.
Video is like from screen over there.
Should we stand up and then sit back down?
Hey, Natalie.
You can do an energizer. Come on, Sarah. You know you want to do an energizer.
There's been a request to move back.
Oh, there's a request to move back?
So anyone who wants to move to the table so they can write? Yeah. Free to be.
Yeah.
No.
Because as soon as you go back to the table, I'm like,
We're empowered.
Yes. Make
Alright.
your own decisions that affect your lives.
I'm sure I knew myself was
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm out of the
Kasi with young people, she could decide that. It's a choice.
She's already an adult. That's right.
all right, we're going to do an energizer. Ready?
Yeah.
Oh, an Hi. I'm gonna do my best. So, yeah, because we're gonna do a small exercise. Are you active after lunch?
So are we staying in the circle?
Yeah, is that okay to stay?
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
If you're back,
You're leading.
Yes, you're the boss.
For 15 minutes, you're the boss.
Okay.
Patricia's reality.
For sure. Hard stuff. Okay. Go back. Yeah,
We're sitting back in the circle.
Yeah, please. That would be great.
Changing my
I hope it's not something I said.
Come on, guys. More excitement.
Yeah.
I would be more excited if there was an app that I could play on the side of it.
We can make it. I know. Let me see if it's the same as mine. Okay, where did that question come from?
That was my ironic.
Yeah, I just. Oh, great. Perfect. So, thanks for being here. So, quick question to all of you, for those who work with programming projects that have some kind of gender equality strategy. Do you think you have enough tools to actually have good interventions for gender equality and inclusion of adolescent girls in particular? Raise your hands, the ones who think you have enough tools to actually do it. Oh, that's exciting. It's more fun in other meetings. Okay, good.
We use the tools.
So, that's
Different question.
So that's why I'm presenting this. You don't have to use it. You don't have to then write me an email and say, yeah, it was great. So I'm going to present one of the tools from the Coalition for Adolescent Girls, and I'm going to introduce a little bit what is this coalition. So basically, what is the CAG, Coalition for Adolescent Girls? Basically, it's an alliance of different practitioners and experts. It brings together a lot of the international organizations, also some academics and donors. And it's basically the focus is to provide with tools, advocacy, different specific interventions, and also a lot of the research publication to include more strategies on adolescent girls, especially for those that are in early adolescence, and also to make a point that it needs to be integrated in the strategies, not only at a global level, but also at a national level. So the structure of the coalition, and if you have more questions about the membership, I mean, Save the Children is an active member, and actually Patrick Crump, here. Nice meeting you, because we always talk on the phone. So now I can put it on. So we're actually in one of the working groups together. I'm also part of the steering committee. I'm the research lead with other people and practitioners like Hope Council, a lot of other international organizations like Plan International, World Vision, etc. are part of the coalition. So the objectives, of course, to influence policy dialogues, global, national level, to adapt to evolving and changing needs, especially regarding adolescent girls strategies, and then obviously to bring the voice to the girls. And that's why a lot of these tools are being developed and implemented for that purpose. So the toolkit on meaningful participation of adolescent girls is a practical resource. It's an open resource. It's very hands-on kind of tool. It's also an activity-based tool. That being said, is that you can use it for any type of strategy. And then it's also developed for activities and structures, not only for practitioners or for organizations, but also for donors and institutions that need to learn a little bit more how to integrate these kinds of strategies regarding adolescent girls. And of course, the objective is meaningfully engage girls as equal and active participants, not only in program in activities, but also, for example, in policy dialogue. And that's why I participated in this strategy, because I was doing kind of a technical consultation with policymakers. So, sorry. What the toolkit is not, in case you want to use it for program design, it's not a comprehensive resource that would answer the why and how and when you actually have to develop certain activities for your program. There are other tools for that, but this one in particular is more like a participatory kind of focused group activity to actually raise awareness about how to engage them. Theory of change, so it's always a theory of change behind these tools. I'm not going to get too much into details on that. So basically the tool, and you will get a copy to do an exercise. Unfortunately, we cannot do the whole exercise because it actually takes a lot of hours and days. So the tool, which is this one, it has a comprehensive approach with different activities. Some of them you can actually use them with the girls, and that's one of the consultations that we did, because we thought that active participation of the tools as well, of the girls that are involved in the program, is quite important. So we kind of, we use it as a scoring rubric. So you have different tables, but for different categories that are really critical when you're engaging girls. And it doesn't matter if it's for a program or, for example, a policy development or a regulation. So why I use it? The tool is simple, it's easy to use. You can involve many types of stakeholders, and it actually provides recommendations for next steps. And one of the things we did actually in one of the consultations is actually write a report on policy recommendations on inclusion of girls in financial education strategies. Who can use it? Again, the tool is appropriate for any type of stakeholder or institution, and you don't need to have expertise on gender equality or gender based issues. And when can it be used? This worksheet can be used at any time. What is not appropriate to use it, for example, for program design, which is what I said before. You're going to see the steps when we do the exercise. So basically, I'm going to give you the example of how we did the technical consultation. So this technical consultation was done with Child Finance International. So we had a group of girls that are part of the youth participation group, advocacy group that the organization had. So they're kind of leading youth participants from different countries. So we had kind of 10 girls and boys. That's very important as well. We always promote that the boys should be included in this kind of consultation. So we had also policymakers from central bank, financial institutions, and regulatory institutions as well, one from the Ministry of Education. So we combine kind of a stakeholder meeting on this, and we go through the assessment worksheet based on the program that we want to evaluate. And for this, what we use, and that was with the Romanian team, we actually discussed how the regulation was set up and if it actually included girls. So the second meeting of stakeholders is to develop an action plan. So basically, based on the score that you get on the different topics, you need to do like an action plan based on the outcomes and the indicators that we put together for this tool. which is based a lot on the World Bank, Population Council, OECD, etc. Frameworks. So we divided on 5 critical categories, which is institutional buy-in, existing or past engagement and experience with working with adolescent girls, vision and action of what your strategy wants. You want to be that strategy. Resources, and that's very crucial because we were talking before about time, budget. Do we have enough human capacity? Because that's also important. And policies and standards. And the standards, a lot of them are based on different frameworks regarding adolescent girls' protection. There's an example of a table, so we're gonna be doing an exercise on this. There are 5 tables. Some of them are longer than others. So each of the groups is gonna be focusing on one table and one program or project. So you're gonna have to choose a team leader. So choose wisely. So, and this is a scoring rubric. It's very simple, and it's just a very basic kind of tool because, for example, when we were doing the different stakeholder meetings and the technical, when we had this technical advisory committee, some of the groups, they had a lot of experts, and some of them they didn't have. They had just people that work in a bank, and they don't know exactly what this is about. So that's why the tool is really, really simple. So yeah, if you score 42 for your score, you're great. You're doing it great. No improvement needed. Well, maybe yes. 26-41, you're well positioned to further develop your practices, etc. Maybe you need more policy or advocacy strategies. So you will see that during the exercise. These are the key outcomes that the working group put together as the ones that are general. Then we have different indicators for each of them. So girls have opportunities, space, and power to be active citizens. Girls are actively involved in their communities. Institutional program and project approaches are gender aware or gender sensitive, and gender inclusive. Girls are respected, heard, and valued. Girls can have access to information network, etc., and resources. And the final one that a lot of the times we miss is that girls know their rights and how they can be actually active participants. This is an example of when you actually work with that table. You can see, you can map in, you can contrast that table with, these are actually the indicators we have to have for this strategy. So when you have that second meeting, you can have a better understanding of how your program looks like. Because when we did one of the technical presentations, one of the programs actually, we thought that it was very gender aware or sensitive, and it wasn't at all because they were not really actively participating. We had certain interventions for them, but it was very isolated. So it was very good to use this tool just to be aware of where the gaps and the challenges. So one of the case studies, I don't know if you want to present this, no, I do it because I don't know, you worked with this, huh? With the pop council, or that was the other one, yeah.
I don't know.
So I just use a case study. I think it's really good, the bibliography that is in the tool. You can download it. There are different case studies on different situations, and this was one for the humanitarian setting. The Women's Refugee Commission actually works a lot with the Coalition for Adolescent Girls. Kate Pike is one of also the steering committee members. So this was a project with Mercy Corps, the Women's Refugee Commission, and Turkey and Iraq with adolescent girls. They provide really nice tools to know the resources around them. So they actually use the toolkit to kind of, assess the challenges and gaps, and they actually were able to do it. Okay.
Is this time for question?
Yeah.
I don't have the stop sign. So I think we're not going to, right now, we can't take questions. Maybe just leave us.
Yeah, maybe after, with the discussion, we can do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to split on 5 groups. Okay, so you're going to focus on one table. You have to choose one team leader that has experience with adolescent girls engagement or focus programs. And we're going to implement the tool for one of the programs. Okay, it's just one table. It's not long. And it's good after lunch to be a little bit active. So one
One.
Two. One.
Sorry.
At 5.
We just did it in pair, so I was already at the next. Thank you. 3.
4.
5.
1. 2. 3.
4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5.
1.
2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3.
4.
Well, 5. Okay, so I'm going to be walking around, but yeah. Okay, so I'm going to, just to be environmental friendly, I didn't make a lot of copies, so you're going to have to, the team leader, okay.
I already stole one.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
I'll take it to the floor.
Very good.
Assumption that disqualifies me to fill it.
So just one seat wherever you want. Come on, there, go.
1.
Oh, you're
Where's the
3, 5 for you. 3's in the middle. 3.
Do the fours want to meet out in the hallway?
Yes, 3.
Yes.
Yes, I actually need to.
Okay, so 1.
3. So no, 3 threes. We need one of them.
Okay, so 3s, you go to the tables, you're going to focus on vision and action.
You could probably get away for 2 minutes.
11. Okay, so choose a leader who's going to read.
Don't worry.
Okay, if you need to read the assessment worksheet, that's fine as well. I presented a little bit on it. So basically, you have to, it's a scoring. So you have to process it. No, my God. So if you can write down anything you can. And it's in place, non-existent.
Yeah. This is supposed to be something based on like something we've done.
Exactly. So if you're the team leader,
project
yeah, so you explain, yeah, we have this project and just
Like with Dave or just anything?
Yeah. Okay, so you have to record. So one, you're going to team leader. Yeah, to decide. Anyone who works, that's okay. Table B. I just talk too much. Should we use the process based on the lesson? He said, okay, so you have to try to you should participate in this. And you go to the table and you grab a chocolate. You go to the table. So you're gonna see.
Especially mine. Let's see that.
And you have to choose.
Not actually implementing it, but
Not actually then okay, so you have 0 out of 12 shapes.
Do you know which is the table project?
And then she gave each group got assigned to it.
For a project, we don't know.
We're C, so you're probably D.
Sorry. 4, we don't know which.
Yeah, 4, so you're C.
Yes.
And 5.
All right. So what's the project?
Okay, so it's basically it's one of those, I would say. I don't know when I look at you because I was maybe short time for talking about it might be a good balance to start rather than.
Or still succeed.
Yeah.
That's a view.
I
Where's
this? Will be a salad. We don't know what we can do. We'll do it's kind of a integration all over.
We want to try and do both.
Try and actually do it. This would be more initial contact and then 5 years with that they will assess in year 4. It's also design thinking.
We all think.
Yes.
institution, program, and project. Your understanding.
And there was a huge gender.
They relate to programs. What would you rate?
Were you charging it?
In place, needs strengthening, or non-existent?
But now they're looking around.
Oh, we never had our. She was. I saw her right there.
So thank you.
I don't know where she went. Let's find
Clear vision. Oh yeah. So what we were going to do is we pulled from a project I just wrote a proposal for. So it's optimistic that it will be our project.
Oh,
it's a large.
I didn't know you were a group.
Okay. We're building social cohesion. We're doing environmental farms, everything all together. It would be in Congo. And then there's also like the ESLA.
Barriers that
So it's kind of has a lot of So thinking through adolescent girl engagement strategy fits into the institution's one overall targets. So is there a clear vision of adolescent girl engagement strategy fits within the institution's projects, overall strategy and theory around engagement. And then
Is there an adolescent girl engagement strategy?
Yes. Is there a clear vision? So you have to pick a project in
Exactly,
because a larger theory of change. I would say for this that was just really for how you're actually engaged.
It is in place. Also, give comments, track how girls are getting to project, and then you have suppose, for example, you don't want learning centers, which is very you have to wait for so that
it depends.
You can do it
It says, yeah, it says institution program.
and so they really react.
So does this trying to translate this vision into concrete action? I would say that was there's a lot that
And now our job program
is actually really in place.
Gender the gender.
I don't think they're there yet.
Savings.
I would be very surprised if the proposal was
Yeah,
a concrete action plan. I was really
We have to
Yeah,
come
yeah.
together as three. So we have to be here.
Okay, we're done.
And then you need to
decide your that being said, like what do you choose and before one, and if you have a lot of the final
Oh, okay. Okay.
I would say
So how does the program define adolescent girl engagement? What do we define as adolescent girl engagement?
So there's a huge strategy around non-outreach. In terms of life skills, actually builds doing actual and there's still opportunities.
It was a question.
Right.
So that's a good question. It could be just poverty.
It's kind of a sort of layer where you had adults and you, and then you came up with a lot of overlap.
In terms of what we are really, but I don't know how they will come back. I mean, I think there was.
No, it's really interesting. It's very exciting.
So we have a score of 5 out of 6.
That was
Did really well.
but we haven't found.
This is troll position. There you go.
We don't have
How that translates in actually.
You have 5 minutes.
So,
Oh, wow.
so I mean, yeah, right. And then they participate, accepting the participation is later. Once they theory, they have we didn't have it. They're like should we go to
Yes, the idea is to give
What's the evaluation?
That's what's
Imagine that.
Oh, yeah.
Who's leading the visa?
So it's us and we what are you institutional program. So there's things and then I mean it's much harder. Which I don't understand a lot of
you'd be able to say what percentage.
Yeah,
we technically it is a good job.
Yeah, I know.
I say that we start to use words where there's increasing and there is there's stuff that like also community seeing various lots.
Well, you know, the whole he's totally doing that over here. This is
oh, well, we have this project. I had
no idea.
You guys are done, right?
Yeah, I told them.
So that was going on because
our health team is really interesting.
Wow.
Other things where she was actually.
Oh well, you know, you guys actually have. Yeah, but I'm thinking that are actually recognized. I'm like, well, we didn't know that over here. And that actually wasn't that wasn't.
So we could say that the rest got better, right? As you went, if you looked at it, to continue on this timeline.
Whatever it is, yeah, it's like, you know. Actually making sure that everyone else. Too many things can one thing. Yeah. And then yeah. We have at the project level in that
and then you put out
but have a not it's like
So with Save Children, I'm working on a mobile app in Indonesia, and that has a girl-specific focus. So all of the workshops have involved girls. Actually, we've excluded boys entirely. Boys are welcome to use the app. All of our money being spent on marketing the app to girls. Boys get the skills to see analog as well. And it's not made to alienate them, it's just made to feel
get back and then say
boys want to use it. Right.
I know.
Finding the funding for that yet.
Yeah. Okay. So we have to come back to the paper.
Yeah, on paper looks great.
We've done a fair amount of actually follow them.
Okay, like this looks
The meeting has been automatically extended.
and we need research funding for
The meeting is about to terminate.